everyone, and welcome to our weekly Power Lounge. This is your place to hear authentic conversations from those who have power to share. My name is Amy Vaughan, and I am the owner and Chief Empowerment Officer at Together Digital, a diverse and collaborative community of women who work in digital and choose to share their knowledge, power, and connections. You can join the movement at togetherindigital.com. And today we are tackling one of the most pressing challenges digital teams everywhere are facing, and that is how to embrace AI responsibly without getting overwhelmed by the technology or the ethics. Our guest, Nikki Ferrell, is a communication leader and AI strategist who has walked this path firsthand. And as the Associate Director of Online Enrollment and Marketing and Communications at Miami University, Nikki launched an AI steering committee to address what she calls the rapid, messy adoption of generative AI in higher education. So, big task there. With AI already impacting how teams work and whether or not leaders are ready or not, Nikki's approach of starting small, building clear guardrails, and fostering transparent experimentation offers a great roadmap for anyone, any leader, anyone looking to champion technology that uses and centers on people, purpose, and ethics. So welcome, Nikki. We're excited to have you here today.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm very excited to talk.
Absolutely. So I actually had the pleasure of seeing you speak at Cincy AI Week here in Cincinnati, and that room was packed. A lot of us, in a multitude of areas and arenas are really looking at how do we leverage and use AI, and how do we do so in a way that feels a little bit guided when we don't quite know like
hmm
what the roadmap actually is. We're kind of planning it as we're driving it, or building the plane as we're flying it, as a lot of us would say. And you've described AI adoption, especially in higher education, as a rapid and messy process. What
Yes.
was it that made you realize that your team needed a formal structure around AI rather than kind of just letting it happen however it happened?
Yeah. So I started actually a master's program. So I work at Miami University, and I started taking a graduate class on writing, business professional writing. And in that class, we were asked to do a white paper style paper on any topic in our field. So I did it on AI and marketing. And this was in late 2023. So ChatGPT launched in early 23. So it was something that folks were talking a lot about, playing with, experimenting with. And it has obviously grown in leaps and bounds in quality since then. But ChatGPT was the first major consumer large language model that got popular. So I started doing that research and looking into AI and marketing, who was using it, and I found some really startling things like, a university, Vanderbilt University, one of the colleges sent out an AI generated email about a tragic event, and got a lot of backlash for using AI for this personal communication. And that's the one that really sticks out to me the most. Of course, there's a lot of other instances of AI being used in marketing, especially in that early time when companies got backlash or were criticized or used it in risky ways.
Yeah.
And so our department and our university hadn't started talking about policy for AI yet at this point. And I chatted with my boss about it, and she agreed that we needed to, get something together to, help guide people. And, I think that one of the big stats that I see, and it's changed every year, but 80% of marketers, are using AI in their jobs, but only 20 some percent of companies actually have policies or guidelines around AI use.
Yikes.
So whether you have the policies or not, they're using it. And if you don't have policies, if they think that they're not allowed to use it, they're still using it. They're just not telling you. And that makes it a big risk, I think, for companies. So that's kind of how it started.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's amazing. So I know a lot of our live listening audience, which, hey, friends, thanks for joining us and listening live. A lot of you are in this boat. Either you are running a business or you're a part of a business or company that is obviously adopting. We're in the 80%, right? And I think a lot of us probably fall within that 20% as well. And oftentimes I feel like when it comes to the shiny new objects within marketing, we are so afraid we're going to end up being the tail that wags the dog. But that really gets us into some trouble, as your example, that you
Mhm.
stated really put it. And so I think, creating a steering committee, I think, is really, really smart. We had a member on as a guest a while back, several months ago too, who worked within an agency and created a steering committee for AI. And a lot of learning and listening to other folks who are doing this within companies is like a great place to start. I mean, outside of listening to today's conversation, finding other people outside of your company who are creating these steering committees and guidelines, like because there is no book or rule book written, finding
Mhm.
others who are going through this is a really, really, I think it's a great, great way to kind of even the playing field in some ways and not feel like you're the only one trying to figure it all out. So, for those of you who are listening live, listening audience, please drop questions in the chat if you have them. We'd love to hear from you and know what it is you're sort of dealing with and struggling with. And then for you, Nikki, I was kind of curious, like when you were walking into that first AI steering committee meeting, once you've established that we are going to do this, what were some of the biggest fears or concerns that you heard from team members about the idea of even just creating AI integration within what you do?
So the biggest, the biggest concern is the same that we've all heard. AI can't replace human creativity, and they're worried that we will try to let AI replace human creativity and innovation. And so I think that there was there was some reluctance about using AI, but there was not reluctance about having this committee. I think that the folks who are most concerned about AI were also in support of having guidelines and policies for using AI and adopting it responsibly. We also started with a lot of research. Like I said, I was in a grad class at the time and I had to create this white paper. And so I gave it to my boss to use I made it a justification or a roadmap for this committee and what we would do and why. And she didn't need it. She already wanted me to do it anyway.
That's good.
But, this whole effort has been grounded in research and
Mhm.
information and education. And I think that is such an important piece of it to ensure that you are working with the best information available, that you know what you're getting into, that you understand the risks, and that um, even folks who are not adopting AI themselves at least have a baseline education about it. Because in marketing especially, it's really important for everyone to at least have that knowledge, that baseline knowledge of what it is and what it's doing. Because even if you're not using it yourself, you will encounter it in this field and
Yeah.
probably in every field moving forward.
Hmm. Absolutely. And it sounds like the kind of whole learning research mindset really helped, right? Make this
Mm-hmm.
kind of happen. And I know a lot of you that are listening are probably sitting in spaces that are new is not always the best and it can be scary. So I think that taking that mentality of like, we're here to learn, we're here to
Mm-hmm.
research, kind of even presenting it as like an academic exercise, even within a corporate environment, could be a really good way to sort of
Mm-hmm.
break through any barriers you might be coming up against. But I love that you had that support. But it also sounds like you were very clear on the why as well,
Yes.
you know?
Yes. It was very much, I had a great, starting argument for why this needed to happen, and
Hmm.
nobody could really disagree with that.
Yeah.
I think that aligning your proposal with your mission, with your company or your organization's values and mission, is also, of course, a great way to not only do the work that contributes to the big picture, but also get buy-in from leadership
Yeah.
on whatever you're trying to do.
Yeah. Which is you have to, right? There's just no way
Mm-hmm.
around that. You definitely have to get the buy-in from the top. So my next question for you is that, in some of your stuff that you submitted to us, you mentioned that AI use can go underground when there's no clear
Mm-hmm.
guidance. What does that look like in practice? I'm curious. And why is that problematic for organizations?
So I'm happy to say we didn't catch any underground use of AI in my direct experience, but I with looking around at AI and how it was being used and how it's still being used, um, you know, you can there's data, there's research and surveys that come out where people talk about, I use AI at work and I don't tell anyone because we're not allowed. or even just anecdotally in conversations with other folks at events like this. And I think that it's really important for it not to be underground, even if you don't have a formal committee or policy yet. Hopefully, you can work your way towards that goal. But leadership should be ambassadors of AI and champion its use in a responsible manner. So that means talking about how they have used AI today, or how encouraging others to share their use cases and examples, and to let folks know that it's okay to experiment, and we have to experiment in a way that is responsible. So I think that kind of, if you're a leader in an organization where you feel that that might be happening, but you don't have policies, or you're not there yet, at least start educating your team, and in informal ways on Slack. Create a culture of openness and experimentation, so that because you risk your team using it and without understanding that AI, large language models, will have biases, and not just in what you see with the content that they create, but with how they answer your question, or how it approaches your question. Because I think that users have to understand some of those things, so that they can use it in the most responsible and ethical way. And ask, encourage your staff to learn together. Let's ask questions. Let's figure this out. And like I said, that culture is a really important piece. If you, it's a great way to start if you can't or don't have the policies in place yet.
I love that. Yeah. It just made me think AI is the elephant in the room, for so many businesses right now.
It shouldn't be. Some people, yes.
Be. And for some places, I mean, again, we're a small little business over here. So we're just like, bring it. Like AI, something that'll help us work faster, smarter. By all means, bring it on. But you're so right. For some people, though, I think it's the elephant in the room that they're afraid to address. And that fear is driven by a lack of knowledge and understanding. And I don't think people realize how empowering it is to actually allow people to say, it is okay to come in and play and explore. Here's the guidelines. Here's like where we like draw some lines.
And
Because
creating your own best practices, if you don't have time to do that. There's so many out there already. Marketing AI Institute is a great place to start. It's not just marketing. Their guidelines, they have Creative Commons policies that we adopted, or principles that we changed and adapted for our uses. And there's a ton of resources out there, and you could take 15 minutes to just send out a note to your team here, before you do it, please go, learn a little bit, or follow these best practices.
Right. Because like you said, then you don't have to be fearful of people going rogue and misusing it and abusing it. And then your business being under fire because of it. So I love that advice. That is so great. All right. Let's get a little tactical, because we love to get into the nitty gritty. For a marketing leader who wants to start an AI initiative, say, tomorrow, what is the first step that you recommend that they would take?
So I think the first thing to remember, if you're thinking about this, is that you don't have to be a leader in your organization in order to make this kind of change. And on top of that, the leaders in your organization have less time and less familiarity with the day-to-day work that you're doing to know what kind of guidance and policies you need. For us, I'm an associate director. I wasn't managing anybody when I started this, and I was 4 or 5 levels down in my org chart, but I'm the one who's benefiting from using it, and using it every single day, and understanding what people need and what my colleagues might want. So first of all, I think that it's important for folks to realize that at any level in your organization, you should feel empowered to get this conversation started. And I think for us, the first thing we did was I made that proposal. I didn't have to, but it's a great place to start, especially if you think that you might struggle with buy-in. Do your research and look at and identify the risks that your company, your organization faces
Mm-hmm.
from AI, both from using it and from not using it.
Oh, I like that.
Because that, your leadership is focused on making sure that your organization succeeds. And so think about how your committee or how adopting AI could it benefits the organization as a whole. And then think about culture, your colleagues, and creating a culture where professional development is encouraged
Mm-hmm.
and championed, and all those things are part of our AI principles that we are looking at it not only as a tool to help us as a division improve the mission and reputation of Miami University,
Mm-hmm.
but also how it impacts us as individuals, as professionals, and how this adoption helps bolster, our culture, our work
Mm-hmm.
culture, and our the expertise and innovation of our team. So, think like a leader when you're trying to put together, your proposal for this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then, if you get the okay, we started with principles, then policies about AI use, and now we're moving into education. So creating a library and trying to get as much education research out to our colleagues as possible.
I love it. That's fantastic. And I love that advice. So all of that, great soundbite there of taking the lead. I think a lot of us people are afraid, right? They're worried about job security. Like you stepping in and taking the lead and creating the practices and the policies and taking ownership of learning this and then sharing what you learned. Like that, you're right. You don't have to have a title in order to lead in
Mm-mm.
that way. Like this is a great opportunity to step up into that role, into that space and do that. And that's a lot of like what Lexi, the past guest that I mentioned as well, really shared. Nobody asked her to do this. She's
Mm-mm.
like, oh my gosh, it's coming and it's coming fast and we need to know how to respond,
Right.
and honestly for her too, it led to some better opportunities. Like I think she got a promotion out of it and now she's in a whole another role. They added AI to her title. So like there's benefits all around for you in that way.
I hope my boss is listening.
Yeah.
Yes, please, promotion. That would be great.
Right? Noted. Come on, right?
Yes.
Let's show Nikki the love for taking the initiative and doing all this. Cause yeah, it's such an added benefit because it is one of those things
Mhm.
where once you create those practices and those policies and the education and people are comfortable and you are using it, the efficiencies alone that you gain, the money that they're going to save now by using it and
Mhm.
using it well. Yeah, they should just take that money and give you some more
Yeah.
of it.
Now, I will say they, it has, it's led to a lot of growth and development for
Yeah.
me. And it's, it has definitely um, increased my footprint or
Yeah.
um, my, uh,
Your
my
visibility.
presence,
Yeah.
my visibility
Mm-hmm.
exactly around the
Yeah.
university.
I love it.
So if you're
Yeah.
looking for that, that's another, yeah, exactly. It's a great way to get it.
100%. Right. Embrace it. All right. So your research, it focuses a lot on transparency, authorship, and trust in human and AI collaboration. How do these academic insights inform the more practical policies that you're creating?
So one thing that I love to repeat over and over again is if you're not comfortable writing AI or ChatGPT as a byline on what you're creating,
Mm.
if you're not willing to sign that and
Hmm.
say AI helped me in this way,
Yeah.
then don't use AI for that thing.
Love it.
So, that doesn't mean that we always that, you know, our we want to be transparent about AI use, but
Hmm.
we aren't going to. It's not reasonable to put ChatGPT on every digital ad that we
Sure.
used that ChatGPT helped us brainstorm the taglines for, right?
Yeah.
So doesn't mean that we don't necessarily say that you always have to put it, but if you wouldn't feel comfortable admitting that
Yeah.
AI helped you with this task, then don't use AI to help you with that task. I think that's
That's a great
a,
guiding principle.
a
Yeah.
nice way to kind of help draw the line, right?
Hmm.
Because it's nuanced. I mean, sometimes it's, you know, I, um, writing emails,
Hmm.
if we had a policy that said AI can write emails, then does that mean that it can write emails from the president to the whole university
Mm,
about a tragic event, you know?
yeah.
So there's a lot of nuances in
Hmm.
policy and guideline creating. And so
Yeah.
there's a lot of, you know, that, that guiding principle
Yeah.
of, you know, would it be okay if everyone knew that you use AI for this?
I
Kind
love
of
it.
gets right at the heart of it, right?
It absolutely does. And like you said, it's like you have to think through all of the use cases, right? Because obviously
Hmm.
there's so much more even than just generative AI. But in the case of generative AI, even that is just a lot to unpack and looking
Right.
at the opportunities for messaging and optimizations
Hmm.
within messaging and where it makes sense and really where it doesn't.
Hmm.
And I love that idea that it's such a great guiding principle. Like if you wouldn't put AI in the byline as a co-author, then yeah, maybe you should rethink um, using it at all to begin with because yeah 100% you've got to be sensitive, and this is a conversation I feel like even before AI with automation, right?
Yep.
So I used to work on, which brand was it? I think it was Curel.
Hmm.
And this has happened a lot with brands. I mean, but this was like 12 years ago, maybe 13 years ago, and they had done like a Mother's Day email blast based on some insights. And what they had not considered was that there were a lot of people out there who had lost their moms. And,
Hmm.
thank goodness sadly, there was somebody on our team who had lost their mom in the last 2 years. And she's
Hmm.
like, I am putting the kibosh on this campaign. Like, you just cannot assume that every person you're emailing has a living mother right now. And I think instead of trying to blast and automate, like, we really probably should find a different way to message and just
Right.
position this. Like, we can take advantage of Mother's Day, but we need to find a way to do it that is like cognitive and sensitive and not a blanket. So
Right.
yeah, Lou's agreeing with me in the comments. Mother's Day
Hmm.
campaigns are the worst, and I've definitely seen people over the last decade sort of take that into consideration. But it was so funny because we were just all steam full steam ahead on all these
Hmm.
kinds of
Ready to hit
campaigns.
send, and then
And we're like, oh gosh, like we
I
need
mean
to actually think about this.
that's where the human,
Yeah.
touch comes in
Hmm.
with any technology is that context, rhetorical knowledge
Yeah.
that humans have that AI cannot have.
Hmm.
We have to provide that or we just make, the decisions ourselves.
Yeah.
So that's a really important part of it. And, you know, speaking of talking about transparency
Hmm.
and authenticity, there's a ton of research out there about marketing, using AI in marketing. That was one of my, in my master's program, I wrote a focus inquiry about um, how should higher ed marketing, how transparent should higher ed marketing be with
Yeah.
how they're using AI? Um, and how do they decide and how do you make policies about that? And I found that it was interesting. I did some research on the different generations because obviously with higher ed, a huge chunk of our audience is Gen Z and now Gen Alpha.
Yeah.
And how do they feel about it? And Gen Z and Gen Alpha are less accepting of AI than
Wow.
older generations.
Wow.
These are things that you've got to know if you're going to
Hmm.
use AI. They, interestingly though, they also were okay with AI being used to message to them.
Okay.
Much more if it was like a bot, like
Okay.
hi, I'm Nikki, I'm an AI bot, and
Yeah.
I'm going to help you register for classes, or
Okay.
answer your questions or help you around the website.
Hmm.
But for other things where if they were given an example of getting an email that said in the bottom, AI helped generate this
Yeah.
email, that was much less okay to them
Hmm.
than that and it was signed by like a person.
Yeah.
That was much less okay to them than an AI,
Oh,
100% transparent
it's
AI.
either one or the other.
Yeah, that's what it
That's
kind of feels
interesting.
like. So, you know, you've got to do your research and know your audiences and
Hmm.
understand how they see this and understand what their expectations are.
Hmm.
And so, basically, what the paper, my conclusion was basically, um, we need to be as transparent as cultural norms expect us to be. So
Yeah.
today, we people expect to know what, when they're being spoken to by an AI versus by
Hmm.
a human. In 20 years, will that still be true?
Right.
I don't, that might not be. So I think that the important thing about transparency and authorship is
Hmm.
understanding your audience, being really in tune with that, and establishing trust by listening to them and responding to how they expect to be communicated to.
Yeah.
So
That is so interesting. I'm curious, in your research, did you find that, like, so AI in use for messaging to them, not such a fan of, but for them using AI, are they like adopting to it themselves?
the Gen Alpha and Gen Zs
Hmm.
are less, by the statistics,
Yeah.
are less enthusiastic about using
Okay.
AI.
Okay.
But what's interesting is this program that I'm in is a English program, rhetoric and
Hmm.
composition, and I'm studying specifically AI in marketing. But a lot of my colleagues are looking to get their PhDs in English and then go on to teach and be
Yeah.
professors. So a lot of what we talk about is pedagogy and teaching
Mm.
and how AI, um, how you can teach with AI how human machine teaming works with writing, how what
Uh,
students should know, or should they be expected to be open to using it or expected to use AI? And is it okay if they use AI to help them write a paper? How
right.
much of that, right? And a lot of the research that we've read in the past 2.5 years since large language models exploded,
Hmm.
students are very hesitant at first, and then
Interesting.
they try it, and they get um, as they get more familiar with it, they tend to be more accepting of it. And it's
Right.
I have to plug my professor Heidi McKee. If you guys are into reading academic papers, you
Yeah.
should look her up. She wrote a paper right around the time that I was in this class at the end of 2023, and she had students in her class, required them to use AI, or told them they could use AI however they wanted
Yeah.
in the whole class. And some of them didn't touch it. Some of them,
Wow.
one of them became like, she said the AI became her best friend during
Hmm.
that class.
Yeah.
So, uh, very interesting differences in how they adapt to it. But I think the big underlying thing is a lot of the fear and hesitation about using AI and adopting AI comes from not being familiar with it,
Yep.
thinking that it's an all or nothing thing, that it either
Yeah.
does the whole paper for you
Right.
or you don't touch it.
Hmm.
And there's so much in between those two extremes.
Hmm.
And I think that as folks get more used to that, they become more open to it. And, transparency becomes less of an issue. So I think as AI becomes, domesticated in our
Right.
culture, it's going to be less and less of an issue. But
Yeah.
we have to listen and
Yeah.
keep keep disclosing until we're
Hmm.
told we don't need to anymore.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Footnote, we're not AI. We're real humans. I promise.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's true.
We almost have to
I don't
caveat
know. How,
that too, right?
I was just going to say I don't know how to prove it. There are three R's in strawberry, and that's how one way to prove it, right?
Uh-huh.
I know how many R's are in strawberry.
Yep. That is so
Strawberry.
funny.
Yeah, there's three. I had to check.
You're like, wait, is that
Mm,
right? Let me write this down. That is, and it's, and I know so many people, and Lucretia, if that's you, Lou, on there, she is a great example of people who have become so attuned to the tool and understanding how to train the generative AI tools that they use, that it really, you can tell who is a seasoned AI user, unfortunately, and you can tell who's not. And I
mm,
can sit alongside someone who has not done a ton of prompting or created projects or their own bots, and those who have. And like the quality, it's almost like I had this conversation last week with a friend of mine who's a photographer. It was kind of like going from film cameras to digital cameras. It was so scary to be like, we're not shooting for film. It's
mm,
digital. You can point and shoot. You can see the picture before it's developed. Like there was all this fear behind it, but it's like if you kind of come in and you know the craft, right? So whatever it is you're trying to train AI on, you have to have knowledge of the craft and what you're trying to teach it to do. But to be able to have that plus the ability to kind of, prompt it for what you need, I have been super, super surprised by, as a tool, because that's what AI is, right? It's not a replacement, it is a tool. how much, people's work has like broadened and flourished and compounded in their capacity to do the work when they have a well-trained AI, capability, or well-trained AI bot, or, great AI capabilities. So I think learning all
Mhm.
those things is really, really important. And what's great about it is it's super accessible, right? Every one of us can jump on, open up a generative AI tool. And if you're not sure where to start, ask it. Ask it, where do I
Yes.
start? And say,
Mhm.
I want to learn how to be a great prompt engineer with AI. Tell me what I need to do. And that's the nice thing, is it's like, it's really, in my mind, leveling the playing field for a lot of people from an education standpoint, right? Because we don't have to go get a college degree to learn how to use AI yet. I don't know.
Mhm.
Are there AI classes yet? Like
Oh,
specifically?
well, there are AI, building AI,
Okay. Yeah. Like
building the large
engineering.
language model,
Yep.
those kinds of computer engineering. And I think prompt engineering, there was like a little
A
push
minute.
where we saw a couple of those
Yeah.
classes, and then quickly, I think everyone is realizing rightly that you don't need to be a prompt engineer
Mm-hmm.
because AI will do it for you.
Yeah.
You just
Just
ask,
have to
you
ask
give
it.
it a prompt and
Yep.
say, "Can you improve this prompt?"
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a young person on here and you're like, "I'm going to be a prompt engineer when I grow up," stop,
Yeah.
do something, pick
Right.
something else. That's not going to be a viable
Mm-hmm.
career path. I think,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, I think there's so much that, you know, using it and using it responsibly and ethically is hard, to think about these things. There's research that came out at the end of last year from Microsoft that folks were reporting cognitive declines. People who use AI a lot reported that they do not feel like they are as strong at problem solving.
Mm.
The same goes for writing. In my opinion,
Yeah.
we talk about this, that writing is part of a process, a learning process.
Mm-hmm.
As you write, you analyze and you figure things out and you process. And if you're taking that away and giving it to an AI, then you are
Yeah.
getting rid of some of your learning.
Mm-hmm.
You're not practicing that skill anymore.
Yeah.
So I think that it's so important to have a holistic view
Mm-hmm.
of what you're doing, and
Yeah.
how you're using AI,
Mm-hmm.
and doing it in a way that only improves you as a person or as a
Right.
professional, and does not take away
Yep.
those important things the skills that you practice. Now,
Mm-hmm.
make a spreadsheet for me to give me the formula for this Google
Yeah.
Doc so that I
Mm-hmm.
can make all of these
Yeah.
numbers add up. Please tell me that. I don't care
Right.
about learning that.
Let it be the
So
computer. Yeah. Let it be the
I'm happy
machine.
with that. Right. So I think that, there's a lot of things to consider when you're
Yeah.
thinking about how to use AI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Random sidebar. One of my favorite uses of generative AI, because to me it's also just like a souped up search engine, is to use it for tech support. I don't have IT tech
Yes.
support, and
A
if I'm
hundred
setting up
percent.
backend systems and integrations, and like my ADD kicks in because there's all these blogs, because everybody has their FAQs and they've got articles because they want you to read all of that before you call somebody. And so
Yeah.
me just talking to my chat GPT or Claude about what I'm doing, and I'm like, I don't
Mhm.
see this. What are you talking about? It, like, literally, I fly through that stuff. So if you guys haven't used it for IT support yet, give it a
Dude,
try.
I used it like a month ago to create my bills
Hmm.
spreadsheet and auto populate it every month with. I made an app script. I'm not
Uh-huh.
a coder. I don't know anything about that,
Yeah.
but it wrote an app script to. So every time I run that script, it,
Hmm.
it creates a new spreadsheet for the month that has not just like the pay dates that are set, because I get paid monthly and my husband gets paid every other Wednesday, so
Hmm.
it's tough. Every month I was having to like put all that in manually,
Yeah.
and it said, you just run this app script. And I said, okay, give me step by step instructions on how to run an app script and what is an app script. And it led me, and then
Awesome.
I would run it and it wouldn't work. And I would say, this is the error message. And it says, that's probably because of this.
Yep.
We used it in a class, to build a website last
Hmm.
semester, from scratch, folks who have no
Hmm.
HTML or coding experience whatsoever.
Hmm.
Um, so this is where, these small businesses and
Yes.
organizations that don't have a tech department and
Hmm.
a web development team, and I don't want to say marketing team, but
Sure.
you
Yeah.
can do a little bit.
Right.
I guess.
Yeah.
But, it opens up so many doors for
Hmm.
folks to be able to
Yeah.
be more productive and doing that stuff.
Absolutely. And like I said earlier, it goes back to you have to understand and know the craft. That's why it's like, AI won't replace marketing. It'll just reveal all the bad marketers. Another great
Exactly.
example, I was mentioning photographers earlier. There's another food photographer here in town who's been doing food photography for 30 years. And, he's almost 60, and he decided as soon as AI came around the bend, he's like, I'm going to embrace this. And
Hmm.
his ability to leverage the tools, um, you can see it in his work. Like, you would be hard pressed to find somebody that could create and generate food photography at the level in which Terry does. But it's because he understands the nuance of food photography, because he spent 30 years doing it and he really dug in and learned the tools. And so I think
Exactly.
that's where that perfect marriage of like the tool, which is the technology, and the craft, really works well. And also why you can't just replace your whole marketing team with AI. Like, unless you
Right.
got a really super well-rounded, really brilliant, AI user and marketer behind the keyboard, like, you're kind of screwed. You're just going to get very vanilla, generic, and potentially damaging marketing that gets
Right.
put out there, that has
Right.
bias, that has just assumptions built in and things like that.
And that looks exactly the same as every other agency
Yes.
that's using AI to create their marketing. I
That.
mean, you'll stand out by being the same as everybody else if you do that.
Exactly. Yeah, 100%. All right. So we know that there's a lot of leaders out there who kind of feel caught between embracing AI for competitive advantage and protecting their team's jobs. We've kind of touched on this, and their well-being. How have you worked to navigate some of that tension, if you've experienced any of that at the university?
So I think one thing that we've always emphasized, that's why we started with the principles of AI use. One of our principles is humans will always be critical for the work that we do,
Yeah.
and that AI should not replace anyone but augment their
Mm.
work. So we make that clear from the beginning that this is not adopting AI is not an attempt to slash jobs. It's to allow all of us to grow and do more things in our roles. So, I mean, you can kind of look at it two different ways. You can use AI to get rid of all your people and do the same or worse
Yeah.
job at what
Quality.
you've been doing with all those people,
Hmm.
or you can use AI to keep all those people and do and increase your performance,
Yeah.
right?
Optimize
And
it.
so that's definitely the way that we're embracing it. And I think again, they're the folks that are skeptical of AI use. That's their right. It's fine. There's folks in my field that in around writing pedagogy who reject AI, and they have really
Mm.
good reasons for that, and I
Yeah.
respect that, and I would never pressure anybody to use it if they don't want
Yeah.
to.
Hmm.
But I do still expose everyone to the ways that I'm using it, the ways
Yeah.
that the folks who are using it are using it, and
Hmm.
occasionally you get some folks who are surprised and get and uh, and it takes those specific use cases and examples for them to actually start to see what it means for what it would mean for them in their day to day.
Right.
So
All right, we got a question from our live audience. So awesome. Thank you guys for asking. Nikki, how do you introduce AI in a university environment? It seems higher education and nonprofits are the slowest to adopt tools that could help them streamline work.
we are the slowest. We win the turtle ribbon every time. So for us, it was, we have support from the top for sure. President Crawford at Miami University is super excited about technology and the advancement of technology and what it means for higher education, what it means for our learners and our students and the student experience as they're coming through Miami. So that helps a lot. He knows that there's red tape that is built into the ours to higher education that he can't change, but his support makes a big difference on
Yeah.
getting through that red tape.
Mhm.
For us, it's also it doesn't have to be all or nothing, right? It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be a big adoption. For us, it just started with having some principles. And UCM, my division's University Communications and Marketing, it's 2025. So it's been almost 2 years
Mhm.
since we started the committee, and we have adopted one paid tool, and that's ChatGPT Team.
Wow. Yeah.
It doesn't mean that, we do have some other ones that some special data specialists and folks are using that are built into tools that we use that,
Yeah.
but as far as like big, like just AI centered, AI forward tools,
Yeah.
that's the only one that we've went through the
Right.
software, went through IT to get access to. And the reason for that is, first of all, it does a lot for all of us. So it made the most sense.
Yeah.
We were very careful in choosing a tool that has a closed system. So we have the Teams version, so that nothing that we put into it goes out and is shared and supposedly is not used to train any other models. If you trust the tech companies,
if you believe the fine print.
Yeah. Yes. And everyone on our team has to learn our principles and policies, take a quiz, it's very short, before they get access to the ChatGPT Team account. So it's a way of not only encouraging folks to use a safe system that is fenced off, that we can all collaborate in, but also forces them to at least acknowledge the policies and principles and think about that before they start using AI. Now, are folks using other free tools? And, we have Gemini. We're a Google school. So we have everyone on the campus has access to Gemini built into their accounts for free. Yeah. And so folks are using those as well. But it doesn't have to be a huge lift where we suddenly flip a switch and we're an AI forward institution, right? For us, it's okay that, we're trying to be patient. And a lot of times when you do go after those big changes, they end up just being shiny objects that, companies buy and never use. So that's something to keep in mind as well.
Great advice. Great answer. Thanks for the question, Lou. Yeah, it's like the total opposite of some agencies that I know of that were like, we're going to build our own model. Like, we're going to have our own LLM and we're going to sell it and we're going to white label it. I'm like, can you all just chill for like a moment and actually like say, is this something that people are going to want to buy when you've got these super powered, large language models that are read by like Google and Microsoft? You can't compete.
Right.
I understand like the desire for privacy, but even those guys have that all figured out as well. But I love what you said about like the quiz taking and like the education in order to even get to the paid opportunity or service. So I'm kind of curious if you could share a little bit more about like what a responsible AI adoption might look like in the day-to-day and what kinds of guardrails, actually matter when you're trying to implement something like this.
So the training is they go through our policies. So we're a university, so we have a learning management system called Canvas. So we kind of already have that at our disposal, which is really definitely helps a lot with doing any kinds of training. So we built a course that is really just a Google Slides deck in a Canvas course that includes the principles, a little bit about each principle, and then some guidelines that are specific to our marketing division. To be clear, these principles and policies are for the marketing division. They are not university wide. I don't have that kind of power yet.
It's a whole other can of worms too,
yes.
Right?
But they go through, and for each principle, it's not just reading the principles, or policies, it's policy and then example, policy and then example. So the policy for, we don't use AI for sensitive or controversial content. And the example there is the Vanderbilt one that I talked about at the beginning of the power hour. So they, go through that. There's a Google Doc spreadsheet that I have where I check them off if they get through the training, and then I send them the invitation to join the team environment. And then we have Slack channels where we talk about what we did today with AI, how we're using it, and what we're developing now is we've gotten through the policies and principles and guidelines is the education part. So we're developing. We have a Google form where folks I'm asking and bugging people constantly. Did you use AI today? How did you use AI today? Go fill out that form. And then the form populates a spreadsheet that folks can search and say, I don't know how to use AI in my job, but I
Right.
do emails. I'm writing
Hmm.
an email, and then they can search email and see how other folks have used AI
Love
to
it.
help with that. What barriers, what tools, specific tools they used. Did they, was it a success or a failure? Like, what did they learn about
Hmm.
how AI works from that experience? So we're working now on building that use case library, a prompt
Yeah.
library, list of resources and stuff for folks
Hmm.
to use.
That's brilliant. I love that idea of a use case library. I definitely have created like a prompt library where we've
Mm-hmm.
like trained, bought on like our tone, our voice, our messaging, our ICP, all those
Mm-hmm.
things. And that really helps. But then I think even then, like for the sake of consistency across your brand, which you want, obviously, it's like having a series of like prompts is really, really helpful so that there's consistency across your teams. And I agree
Mm-hmm.
with you too. Like, um, ChatGPT Teams is great for that too, right? Because you can create folders and things like that. So if you haven't checked into it, no, not getting paid by ChatGPT, but definitely I think it's a good tool and well worth looking into when you're kind of in that collaborative,
Mm-hmm.
generative AI use situation.
And
So
it's not a huge investment. I mean,
yeah,
it's $20 a month if you are using the pro version individually, and it's 25 for teams. So
yeah, yeah.
for per person. So if you've got 4 people on your team, that's not terrible.
No, $100 a
So
month can't beat that. If you're using it right and using it well, absolutely. Again, the optimizations you'll create and the efficiencies you'll create are huge.
mhm.
So I love that idea of I totally wrote that down in the use case library. I might be stealing that.
Good.
I think that would be a cool thing for our Together Digital community to do
Mhm.
together as well. Because we have a lot of business owners, but then we have people that are within marketing agencies we're all just trying to figure it out. And
Right.
it is so cool when you can kind of just scroll through and really
Right.
kind of
I mean,
dive in and see.
that can be a huge obstacle for folks. Is like
Yeah.
I'm fine with using AI. I just don't know how I
What
would
to
use
use
it.
it for.
You can also put your job description in there and ask
Yeah.
AI
Hmm.
what it can do for you. But
Oh, that's a great idea. I love that
marketing
too.
the Marketing AI Institute has a jobs GPT where
Uh-huh.
that's basically what it is.
Okay.
I listen to the Marketing AI Institute's podcast. And,
Love it. Are you going to be
they're a
at
great
MACON this
resource.
year?
I am. I
Yay, I'll see you
am. Are
there.
you
I will be
good?
there. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah. And a
That'll
huge
be
shout out to
great.
Kathy McPhillips and all of her peeps who make that happen. Yeah, she's amazing. So yeah, I'm
It's a great
excited.
event. Cleveland is beautiful in
Yeah,
October. And
it
I
is.
lived in Cleveland for a little bit, so
Did
it's a good
you?
chance for me to see folks and yeah, go to
Yeah.
MACON. It's great.
Yeah, agreed, agreed. Yeah, I love Cleveland. It rocks. I like being up there. It used to be Content Marketing World was up there as well for many, many
Yes,
years, and they've
it
moved now.
was.
But that's how I got to know Cleveland was those events.
Hmm.
Awesome. All right, let's see. I think the next two questions you kind of already answered in a lot of ways. So, live listening audience, we're coming close to time. So, if you've got additional questions, don't be shy about dropping them in. And then I'm going to get to one last question and then our power round of questions. So, my last kind of bigger question for you, Nikki, is for leaders who are still hesitant and those who want to lead, who are still hesitant about AI, whether it's due to ethical concerns or feeling overwhelmed by the technology, what would you want them to know?
Oh gosh. Um, I think it's happening whether we resist it or not. I hear that. I know everyone hears that a lot, and it's kind of mean, to say, but I think it's true. I think that
Yeah.
I don't like to say, it doesn't mean that you have to use it and love it and
Sure.
adopt it. But I do think that you really need to take a hard look at what you're doing and what your organization is doing
Hmm.
to determine whether ignoring this tool is going to be good for your future, your
Hmm.
strategy. Um, and I think that what's holding you back. I mean, if it's that you don't want robots to take over, I agree. I get it.
Yeah.
It can be scary, but I think that's an even makes it even more important
Right.
to have policies and talk about AI. And your AI policy might be do not use AI, and there's lots of sectors that have great reasons for
Sure.
that, but um, at least start the conversation
Right.
and listen and hear from your team about what they want to see. How do they want to use it? Are they finding it helpful? Be open to seeing to listening to your team's feedback and what solutions they've come up with, because
Right.
they are the ones that are in their day to day.
Yeah.
So they have the best perspective on how it might be helpful for them.
Yeah, and they're likely already using it, like you said, on the down low. So you
Right.
might as well come on out and address that elephant
Mhm.
in the room. It also makes me think about, like, for some people who are a little trepidatious about leveraging it at work, I said, try using AI for your personal life.
Mhm.
We were visiting my dad in Florida a couple weeks ago, and last minute, he's in Clearwater, so Disney's 2 hours away, decided we were going to go to Disney the next day. And I'm like, wait a second. Who decides to, unless you live in Florida and got a pass, like who just shows up at Disney? Like you have to have a plan, right? And of
Right.
course, there's millions of sites and blogs and expert articles that are out there
Yes.
about Disney. And I just literally went in and I said, hey, we're going to go to Disney tomorrow. Here's my kids' ages. Here's what they like. One likes rides, one doesn't like rides, one likes
Mhm.
shows. We're going to be with my dad. We need to minimize the amount of back and forth across the park. We're going to be there one day. Here's the 2 parks we're going to. Give me an agenda. And oh my gosh, Nikki, it was amazing. It was a
Mhm.
really tight, awesome agenda. And granted, we flexed within it, but at
Right.
least it gave us some guidance to know what direction we were going. So everybody got a little bit of what they wanted out of the day.
Mhm.
And for me, it was like going in with a little bit of a plan and not like a wing and a prayer,
Right.
going to one of the most crowded and
Right.
sometimes meant to be the happiest, but can be easily the most miserable if things go sideways. And so I've used it for that. I used it for like looking for gift ideas for the holidays when I start to get burnt. I've done it for meal planning, for creating workouts for myself, like just kind of play with it. Like you said, have that mindset of, experimentation and
Mhm.
find safe places to do that. And then all of a sudden, you're going to try to like AI everything.
Right. Yes, and I mean, next time you think of Google, you start to Google something,
Yes.
try AI instead.
Love
That might
that.
be a good thing to try. I've used it for
100%.
all those things. Plus, my garden, I sent a picture of a
Hmm.
plot that I can't get things to grow in,
Yeah.
and I said, "Why isn't anything growing here?" And it said, "I noticed that the sun is over here, and that it's probably shade all day, and there's a big tree, and
Wow.
the soil is this kind because I know that where you live." Well, okay, so it does get kind of creepy because it does know
I know where you
way too much about me.
live.
I
Right.
also had it. I was asked to share a favorite poem
Hmm.
earlier this week for another event, and I haven't read any poetry since college. And
Yeah.
so I said, "What poems do you think I would like?" And it gave me 10 poets. I liked most of them. And it was interesting. It gave me poets that write concisely,
Mm.
and, you know, um, that, get the point across and are,
Yeah.
look simple, but aren't simple. And it was like,
Yeah.
how would I wouldn't even know to look for poems like that. But yes, you're right. You're exactly right. That's exactly what I would like. So it was
Oh,
interesting.
yeah, you know us so well. That's so great. I love it. I love it. All right, let's get to our power round questions. We got lots of stuff going on in the chat, but it's mostly just comments and support and agreement. So, all right, what is your go-to prompt when you're stuck and need AI to help you think differently?
Help me do this. I mean, literally, it's AI. I'm trying to.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I have this problem that I can't solve, where I have a seed of an idea, and I'm not
Yeah.
sure where I'm going to go with it yet. What would you? What? Give me 3 things that I could do with this.
Mm.
And I mean, then I do the other thing that I love to do is talk to it in the car.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have the Pro, you can talk to it, and I can pick what voice I use, and I brainstorm, especially like on the way home from work when my brain is still really going.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of thoughts and stuff that I want to like get down, but I'm literally driving, so I can't
Yeah.
write them down.
Oh, I'm gonna try
And
that.
oh my gosh, it's great to just bounce ideas off of and like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, expand on that. Okay, now make me a to-do list. Make me a Google sheet,
Mm-hmm.
spreadsheet that I can import into Asana, my project management tool, and
Love
make it
it.
a project that, and then when I get home, I can do 2 clicks and I've got a new,
Boom. There it
yeah,
is.
it's great.
I love it. And then I love it too when it starts to like anticipate, like you start to put out those ideas and it's like, would you like me to make this in a PDF format or a spreadsheet for you?
It
I'm like,
upsells
whoa,
you.
do you want
It
an
upsells
action
you.
plan? I was like, oh my gosh, yes,
Yeah.
please.
It
Best
upsells you so that you
admin
can
ever.
use more data, so that you can be like, then it can be like, you've run out of
Right.
questions this month. Would you like to
Yep. which
Paying
is
more
why I
money?
totally have the pro. I can't not have the pro.
I
I
know.
can't not. It's just, it's not
Hmm.
going to happen. I use it every day.
Hmm.
Every day. All right. What's the most unexpected way AI has improved your daily workflow?
Um, just like that, getting over humps, right? The
Mm,
wall of awful. You mentioned ADD. I also have ADHD,
hmm.
and there's this great YouTube video about the wall of awful. And it's a task that you just can't even start.
Yes.
It seems exhausting. You don't
Hmm.
even, and especially working more with strategy and less with tactics in my role at
Hmm.
Miami, it's helped me to look at something, where somebody says, okay, create a ambassador marketing, stakeholder marketing strategy for this thing. And I'm like, great. That sounds like a big job,
Yeah.
and I don't even know how to start with that. So
Hmm.
going to AI and saying, okay, please write out a strategy for me. And then we fine tune it, go back and forth and edit and stuff. And then at the end, I always say, what's the first step? What is the first task that I need to do
Hmm.
to make this happen? And make it small. And it says, pick up your
Yes.
pen,
Oh,
or,
such
go
a good
write one
reminder
email.
though.
Like
Yeah.
that's the great, like, helps. It's very good for my neurodivergence for sure.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love it. That's a great use case. Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate it. And I know our listeners do too. All right, last one. One AI myth that you wish you could bust for everyone right now.
It's lazy.
Mm,
That using it is lazy, that people who use it are using it to do everything, that it's all
mm-hmm.
or nothing.
Yeah.
I would happily let anyone go through my chats to see
Yeah.
how I'm using, how I use the LLMs every day. It
Mm-hmm.
is it's back and forth. It's brainstorming. It's quizzing me on the
Mm-hmm.
brand style and AP style. It's
Yeah.
um, you know uh, I'm telling it that idea is, that idea is stupid. You need to try again. Like,
Right.
it's
Yeah.
it's very collaborative if you're
Mm-hmm.
using it in a good and effective way. So that's one thing that I think that we should all talk
Mm-hmm.
about and be open about using AI, so that there's no
Yeah.
shame, so that folks aren't thinking that, we don't need to be ashamed of using it because we're not using it to replace us. That would be dumb. Then I wouldn't
Yeah.
have a job anymore. So,
Right. Like you said, it's a supplement too. It's an
hmm,
optimizer, it's an enhancer, it's a tool. It is a tool.
exactly.
It is still a robot. You still need those
One
humans in the
thing,
loop.
I know we're almost out of time.
Yeah,
There's
you're
one
good.
thing that we talked about in one of my classes about technology adoption and the literacy crisis that we're going through right now
Mm,
with AI, right?
yeah.
That, we're shouting from the rooftops that students aren't writing papers anymore.
Yep.
This happened with the invention of the pencil. Scholars believe that if you had an eraser, that you wouldn't be as smart. You wouldn't, if you can just erase
Oh,
things, that's a shortcut, you
yeah.
know?
Oh my gosh. I love that
And
analogy.
it's absolutely true.
Hmm.
There were scholars who talked about that.
Yeah.
And, we know it's happened with the typewriter, with the
Yeah.
computer, with the
Uh-huh.
pencil. It happened when writing was invented,
Oh yeah.
when public education became a thing. There were people who were pushing back on that because they thought that it would make that if people don't have to memorize things, they can just go look it up.
Hmm.
Then they're not going to be as smart
Yeah.
anymore,
Hmm.
and the public will be dumber if they all
Right.
learn how to write.
Mm.
And
It's
now,
so wild, isn't it? You're
it's
like, wait,
crazy that we
what?
think about that today.
Make it
So,
make sense.
yes, exactly.
100%. Oh, Nikki, thank you so much. This was such a great conversation. Lots of thoughtful comments, and thank you to our live listeners as well. Some really practical conversations about, something that so many of us are really grappling with, trying to find a way to be responsible and really work with the adoption of AI in a way that doesn't have to be overwhelming, just more intentional, ethical, and human centered. So thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been great.
Absolutely. And listeners, keep an eye on both our YouTube channel and our podcast. Make sure you subscribe to both for this episode when it finally goes live. It's usually in about a week. And if you're inspired by conversations like this, I would really encourage you to check out the Together Digital community, where we just love to talk the truth and share really what everybody else is thinking. We like to address the elephants in the room. Our amazing members is such a brilliant community of really super savvy, smart women who are, there to listen, who are there to learn. They own their own career and personal development by being members. It's just a great place to find ongoing support for you that understand the unique challenges that we're all facing. So all of you, thank you for joining us today, and we will see you all in another week or so. Until then, everyone, keep asking, keep giving, and keep growing. Bye now.
Produced by Heartcast Media.